Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video, and today we are here for episode number 7 of the F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, and up next we have the Hungarian Grand Prix. If you did not check out the last episode, we were racing in Silverstone in our home Grand Prix, but I forgot to show you all of the settings that I am going to be using for this career mode. We're 7 episodes in and I've only chosen now to show you. And of course, to make things more difficult for myself, we don't want it to be too easy, so I have decided to make some of the settings a little bit trickier so we can get started a little bit slower in this career mode. But now we move on to quick practice, the usual. Let's move into qualifying. So here we are at the end of my first run here in Q1, and I believe it's been quite a good lap here. Going round the final corner, the car actually doesn't feel too bad compared to in Silverstone, and now we exit the final corner, drag reduction enabled, and we go in P3, which is absolutely epic, and I think I'll be able to get away with staying in the garage for the rest of the session, mainly because we have beaten both of the Aston Martin cars. We're ahead of the both of them, Vettel and Stroll, so we're going to stay in the garage for the rest of the session. And now, as we look at the results of Q1, we have made it through to Q2, we've gone P15, and it seems up and down in this career mode. We're always getting into Q2, or we're always getting knocked out, which is not too bad for our first season. But now, we move on here to my first run in Q2, round the final corner. It's been a decent lap, but I feel like I could improve here. So now going towards the line, we have gone just behind Vettel, a few tenths behind Ocon there, and I doubt that will be enough to get into Q3. So I think I can try a second run. We have enough fuel. Kimi Raikkonen is exiting the pit lane and we've spun. Of course we have. Thank you, Kimi Raikkonen. He really did a great job there. But now here we are at the end of the session, trying to get an improvement, and I've gone all over the curb and I've made a mess of my final run there. It turns out we're not going to improve. So that'll be P14 on the grid, which is still pretty good since there are 16 cars. We've still been able to beat 2 of them. So now let's move on to the rest.
Let's begin by discussing Daniel Ricciardo. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the comp start.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Perez, Sainz, Gasly, Fernando Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda, Ocon, Vettel, the owner driver and Stroll, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Mick Schumacher and Antonio Giovinazzi, Schwartzman, Latifi, Russell and Nikita Mazepin. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
Well, big news there for the championship there. Ricciardo with a grid penalty. In a track like Hungary, it's not very simple to overtake, and he will be stuck on the soft tyres. And that actually helps me out there because it promotes me up into P13 on the grid. So we have a higher chance of maybe getting into the top 10 today. But all we have to do is focus on the start and try and keep up with the other medium runners like Ocon and Vettel. Here we are landing up on my grid slot, ready for the 5 red lights for the Hungarian Grand Prix. The lights are out and we are underway here for the Hungarian Grand Prix, and I've had a great start compared to Sebastian Vettel. I've already got myself up into P12, now into the run, into turn 1. Ricciardo is attacking me. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc down the inside of the 2 Mercedes. Charles Leclerc leads the Grand Prix. Unbelievable action there. Meanwhile for me into turn 1, Vettel flies down my inside. I could not avoid him there, so I have to just take it easy so I don't go into the back of Yuki Tsunoda, and I've actually only stayed in P13. I'm going to look to the outside line of Esteban Ocon, Here we go, around turn 3. I understeer a lot, so Ricciardo will now have a look at me here. Around the outside here at turn 4, we're still going wheel to wheel, and Stroll is looking to get himself involved. Now through turn 5, I've gone flying off the circuit, and me and Ricciardo are still going side by side. Now through turn 6, he was able to hold it round the outside. I'll have a look to the inside line, I'll go for it, into the chicane. Me and Ricciardo somehow not making contact, and somehow Ricciardo was able to get ahead. But Charles Leclerc, a brilliant start for the Ferrari from P4 on the grid. He is currently in the lead ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, who started on pole position, looking to try and get his first win of the season. And now the fight for P10 is on. Alonso gets a brilliant run, and now down the inside of the 4-time world champion, and that is a beautiful move from Fernando Alonso. But now we end lap 1 and we start lap 2. Ricciardo is already overtaking Ocon here around the outside at turn 1. They're still going wheel to wheel. Ocon will try and fight for his life, but the Alpine doesn't really have the engine power of the McLaren on the straight, and the McLaren will go down the inside. And Ricciardo picks up yet another important position. He needs to try and make damage limitations here. He's fighting for the World Championship. Meanwhile, at the end of lap 2, I think I can even have a look at Ocon here. I'm all over the back of the Alpine, and I think about sizing up a move maybe when DRS is enabled, but round the final few corners, and the car is feeling absolutely brilliant, like I can actually compete with the guys in the midfield, a bit like in Paul Ricard, I might say. Meanwhile, round the final corner, Lando Norris has set the fastest lap.
It looks like we might have an issue. Hang in there, we're attempting to manage it.
Hold up, what? Are you telling me my engine could be on the verge of failing here and we're only on lap 3 of the Grand Prix? We've had such a promising start to the race, and now we could be retiring already. Hopefully, it might be a minor issue. Maybe the car will go into lean mix, or it will be an ERS fault. I hope to God it's that. We cannot afford to retire here. We have the pace to compete, so hopefully we don't get any bad.
We have a severe engine issue. Find a safe space to retire or return to the pits. This is serious. We need you to retire as soon as possible.
Well then, our engine is completely gone here. Round the chicane, we cannot control our car. The AI is taken over, and we are out of the Hungarian Grand Prix after only 3 laps of competing. What a way to end it.
It's a performance to be proud of today from our Hungarian Grand Prix winners. Talk to me, Ants. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. Now let's take a look at the drivers' standings. Today's performance means Max Verstappen now owns the top spot in the Drivers' Championship. Some amazing talent out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Well, Crofty, Daniel Ricciardo would have to be my driver of the day. It's less about what he did right, but how little he did wrong. Perfect driving.
Let's move on to the constructors. No change in the top spot, but with today's points, their hold on the lead is getting weaker. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, that was it, guys. That was the Hungarian Grand Prix. After such a promising start to the race, I was so excited to see what would happen later on, and then we just retired. Leclerc ended up on the podium, and he was right behind Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, and the only way Hamilton could win was when I don't get to see how he won, of course. But that, guys, will end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you are hyped for the Belgium Grand Prix, where hopefully we'll have a bit more luck. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
What it really means to live life gold.